We all here? Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors of California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. Today is Tuesday, August 17th, 2021, 9:30 a.m., and we are live, and I believe you can monitor Granicus through our meeting today. Okay, the purpose of the meeting is to conduct the regular business of the Third Laguna Hills Board and in accordance with Civil Code 4930, as previously noticed. Okay, call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'll be Director McCary.
If everybody would please stand and put your hand over your heart and recite together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would ask people to silence their electronic devices and put them on mute or turn them off, please. We'll acknowledge the, we'll acknowledge the media at a distance. And do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Reza and Kush seconds. Okay, a little discussion here. We have several things that are happening today, and I'll just highlight, not that it will change a lot of the agenda, but we have some different presentations, and you'll hear them both as we come to them in committee reports as well as VMS report. So we thank everybody for preparing for that. There's going to be a lot of good information given today. So if you are viewing at home or through Granicus, I would ask you to get a piece of paper and pencil. You may want to jot down some information. Okay, any discussion about the agenda? Okay, it'll stand as approved by consensus. And approval of the minutes for July 20th and July 27th. Do I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept the report.
Okay, Reza makes motions. There's second. Craig seconds. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, that'll be by consensus. Okay, on to the report of the chair. Like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of things coming at you today. We think is very, very good information you'll want to know about. And I'll highlight something in case folks have their Orange County Register copy dated 8/17/21. Just to bring this to your attention, there's an article in there called First Ever Water Cuts Declared for Colorado River. So I would ask you, if you would, at your own leisure, to read through that. We may be referring back to that as we go through some of our presentations this morning, but it's well worth you taking the time. It's about a 3-minute read. Okay, I won't go into any other thing other than to say that one of our presentations is on water. It's very significant to us, and as you'll find out in this article, it's going to become more near and dear to us. But you'll hear more complete reports through our landscape and our water committees as we get into them. So stand by for news on that. Okay, update from the VMS board. I believe President De Lorenzo is going to make a presentation.
Good morning. Thank you, Director Parsons, the third board of directors, our wonderful VMS staff and leaders, and Grant especially, and our third members. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I feel very tall here. I mean, I want to thank you for the opportunity to report on VMS in a slightly different way with slides and data. Generally, I don't report using slides and data for this because I feel that our staff has so much other stuff to do, but we worked very closely with Siobhan and Eileen, and they put together a very well done but short presentation. And I think that we will be able to give this to our other VMS board members to use at GRF and United because it's good information. So The first slide is about our overview. After we had to rush to form VMS because of all that went on like 5 years ago, we sat down and we came up with our mission. And I'm not going to read these slides to you because how will residents be able to get copies of this? Because this was added.
We can put it on the website.
All right, we'll put it on the website because, I promised Steve that I would do a really good job, so we were working on it over the weekend. But in any case, we have our overview, and then we had our goals. And our goals, of course, is to deliver better customer service. So we said, okay, if we want to deliver better customer service, how do we decide on what really needs work? Well, one of the things that we have that's steady, other than the phone calls to the directors or people stopping you in the street, and I always say you have to go out in a disguise, is the calls are calls into resident services. So we decided to use that as a foundation. So we have, based upon those, we have KPIs, those are key performance indicators, KRIs, which we use in the hospitality business, which is K result areas. So in case I flip back and forth, it's because of the different languages we use. And also I might throw in CSIP, which is Customer Service Improvement Process. So those are all the different names that we use in different businesses. So we have this tracking of resident service calls and doing our KPIs monthly. So for the past year and a half, ever since Wei Ming was the chair of the board, and now I'm the chair of the board, we really wanted to change the direction of the board to work on the business of VMS. And Jeff is laughing, but that's all we ever do, the business, the things that we have to get done. So based on our resident service calls, which we have done monthly for the past year and a half, we look at things and we say, okay, gate clearance doesn't seem, month after month, gate clearance doesn't seem to get better. But when we used to look at this, landscape used to be a real problem, and I'll get to that later. So we're actually talking, and the presidents of the boards or board members will be involved in this, and we're saying maybe we don't need to do these KPIs monthly because we know where they're going. Maybe we should do them quarterly. And then in the time that we spend gathering all this information, we could be working with the department heads and say, I'm tired of gate clearance not moving along. What can we do to really improve that? So we might have to reallocate our time because we've been doing this and we have the information, but we have had great results in some areas. So the next slide has to do with completed service orders. And then the next pages will talk about landscape. One of the key areas, I have to talk to my hands, remember with my hands, because I'm Italian from New York. But landscape is a really big area, really tremendous. And we found, and Kurt worked very hard on this, it was the way the requests were going from resident services, and then where did they go next? I know Lynn has worked very hard on this with staff, and Kurt has worked on it. I know Eve. And we have seen, we can go to the next one, that in 2018, we had 21,194 tickets. Now, in 2020, we had 15,800. Well, that's a tremendous improvement. Well, we could say, well, that's because of the pandemic. Well, that's one of the areas that really wouldn't have changed from the pandemic. It might have even increased because people had a lot more time to be in their house looking outside at the landscape. So it has had tremendous improvement because of the different things, and we're already there, that landscape did to improve customer satisfaction. And we have a long way to go. But we're working on it. And I know that one of the things, because I talked to Siobhan about this, is I say, they're always talking about supervisors, but I don't see a supervisor. Does a supervisor wear like a coat that says supervisor on it? And she said the supervisors wear white shirts. So if you don't see anybody with a white shirt ever, you should let Lynn know, because Lynn chairs the committee, because we're supposed to have supervisors out there looking at the work that the staff is doing. And I know I don't ever see them. So make sure you keep your eye out. But I know Kurt works very hard and his department is working very hard, and we thank him. One of the other areas that we've really had to make improvements is in our resale activities. On this slide here, you could see that we had 85 sales in May, 100 in June, and 105 in July. Now, according to Siobhan, because I asked her, we still have a lot of sales pending, but we don't have so many places in inventory to sell. So, I think it's like about 80. So we might not be able to keep these numbers up if we don't have more houses to sell. But I think that we're really doing a good job, and the department has worked very hard. I mean, that's a lot of sales, and they have worked with the board members to improve the processes that we have in order to make this more efficient. I can't believe that we actually have DocuSign, because in the past, and I'm only talking 2 years ago, they used to call us in and say, there are 15 sales packets on the desk. We need board members to come in and sign these, because every document, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, has to have the signature of 2 board members who are fully trained to know what to look for. 3 board members. Thank you, Annie. Oh yeah, it was always 3. That's right. I tried not to. Okay, thank you. So the other things that we're trying to do in order to improve our service is try to have more operational efficiencies. We actually added this year something called a client services meeting. And that is a meeting that Jeff and Siobhan have with the presidents, vice presidents, and anyone else they have on the board who is going to be related to that area, where we really sit in a meeting room and discuss what works and what doesn't work and what our goals are. And we've had wonderful results in talking about the financial department finances. We've talked about maintenance and construction. We've talked about Manor alterations, project management. And then this past month, we went back and reviewed financial services, and we reviewed management and construction. And what we're trying to do in these meetings where we get input from the boards is try to make things better for the community as far as service goes and as far as finances go, because I know a big part of discussing financial services had to do with banking charges, and I'm not going to go into that, because if we're making any changes or whatever, I'm sure Robert and Steve or Jeff and Siobhan will report on it. But how much we pay for check processing, there's so many things that come up. So there'll be changes in those areas. So all of these things we're working on to listen to you and to make sure that we move with the boards, with advisors on the boards, to make positive changes. One of the other things that Manor Alterations did, because that was quite a mess, and there's still a lot of work to be done there, but the head of the department had a meeting with the real estate community, had a meeting with the contractors, and now they actually have a biweekly news bulletin for the contractors, real estate people, and people who might be doing alterations on their manor. And I know that United has made some changes in the permit process, things that might not need permits. And I know that Third is looking at that, though I keep saying, why is it taking so long? But I could just say that to Steve. The thing is we also have, we restructured the fixed bus routes. We eliminated, which I think is really good, the sending out of the decals to everybody because we have the RFIDs. The people have said, how does security check on our cars if we don't have the decal? Well, they look at the RFID, but somebody wanted to know, well, can't they just print a few of them for those of us who still like them? And the answer was no. But that was a good financial decision, and that came from data that we gathered from the board members and from the residents. So I'm going to get to the end now, and again, I thank you. The biggest thing that we have to do is to make sure that we're communicating with you, the residents, so we hear and understand what you're happy with or what is bothering you, and we have to make sure that you know the truth. In here, this is the land of rumors, And I know one day I was sitting with Jeff and Siobhan, and a rumor was going out that because the governor was changing some things, that we were going to close the clubhouses again. And the thing is we certainly weren't going to close the clubhouses again because we worked so hard to make sure that they were open. We really pushed Brian. And even now, you know, we're going back and forth. I mean, not that we're going to close them, but the thing is, Brian, what are you going to do for Thanksgiving dinner? What are you going to do for, I almost said Easter, Christmas dinner? You know, are we going to be allowed to have large groups eating in a room? I mean, you know, but find out if a caterer is available. You know, there's this constant worrying about and thinking about the residents and trying to make decisions. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes, and the board knows about it. And we are very dedicated to you to make sure that you know what the truth is, and that we're working on getting things improved. So my last thing is always feel free, this is the last slide, to contact VMS. And you could contact VMS at, one more, at info@lagunawoodsvillage.com. So that's pretty easy. So we'll leave it there a little while in case, as Steve said, you want to write it down. The other way that you can let us know what you need or what you're happy or not happy with is you can contact one of the board members. And do we still put the list of all the board members in the board packet with their contact information? We used to. But you can get a list of all of the board members and their contact information at the front desk, and if you don't like to go online. So let us know. Let us know what you're worried about, what you're concerned about. Sometimes the things that you read are I was reading about the tags on the trees and, you know, why they were removed. And you know, so there's so many things that happen. Look at how old this community is. So that is all that I have. Again, I want to thank the staff. Our staff does a very good job. And I want to thank all of you for your commitment to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for VMS? Okay, once again, thanks. Okay, at this time, we'll go on to our open forum. And do we have any comments by anyone? Grant?
For open forum, we have Elaine Tabor at 3083C.
I'm going to say we've been trying to get a railing put in to help this person get to her manor and get in and out of her manor. She's going to speak about her concerns. She's blind. And then I have 4 pictures that I'll show you what our concerns are. Okay? Elaine? You're right here.
Where? Oh,
This is
podium?
the podium, and
And which way am I looking, you all?
yeah, you're looking at them all.
Looking
And
good
this-
there.
This is the microphone,
Okay, got it. Okay.
and they're all around you in a semicircle.
Oh, lucky you. Lucky me. See, these are my blind eyes. I thought I'd take the glasses off and give you a treat. Anyway, I have been here for 19 years in my condo. I came here when I was 62, and I am now 81, and I have been blind for 31 years. And I love my condo, and I love where I live, and it's in the back at 3083C, and it's quiet back there. But a problem has come up. All this time, I do have a patio, I can get out. But I used to walk for years. I had a smooth path going from the carport to my front door. And I walked with my cane and my doggie. It's not a sing-eye dog, it's just my baby. And there are people talking and congregating up by the carports or whatever. We talk and this and that. But somehow, some way, and I'm very pleased, with where I live. I have not asked for any alterations to my place at all in the 19 years I've lived here. I'm happy with what I have. I think the flowers, everything is being cut, and the trees, everything is fine. I'm happy. But somebody decided to make the flat path that I take from my front door to the carport a hill. And being totally blind, that's a steep hill. And you can ask my friend, Leslie, she's on the walker. She can't come down that hill on the walker because of the rollers. It's that steep. And it's very, very scary. I have no frame of reference for where I am. When I start to walk, I'm going uphill and I feel like I have nothing to hold on to, like I'm going to go backwards. And so I can't do that. And then coming down, it's the same thing. It's like coming down like that, I have nothing. And all I've been asking for is if somebody would, this is the only thing I've asked in 19 years, please put a railing in on the left side so I can walk with my cane and hold on to I have no frame of where I am, where I'm at, unless I hold on. What I used to do was take the cane and hit it on the side of the flower bed, but it was a flat path, and I knew where I was going. But I can't go up and down, and I'm stuck in my home. I can't get out, and it's a terrible thing because I would like to be able to get out, or like Leslie had. Well, she's in the walker now, but had to send someone, park her car on top, and send someone to come to my door to get me to walk me up. That's the only way I can get out is if someone comes to my door to get me and walk me up or down. And it should, all I'm asking for is a railing. That's all I want in all these years. Because what if, God forbid, there's an earthquake or a fire or something? You know, I can't get out on my own now. I suppose I could crawl on all fours, but, you know.
Ma'am,
Anyway, yes.
We have a time limit on how long you can speak, but I think it would mean a lot if you could go ahead and show your slides or pictures. Did you bring those today?
Leslie did.
Okay. If you could go ahead and show those to us, please.
Sure. For a minute.
Which way do you want me to go? Right here?
Yeah.
This is so romantic. Yes.
We tried to submit a request before to get a railing put in, and they said they would take care of the lump in the walkway. So I'll show you what we have. I feel like,
Ben.
okay, you probably won't all see this, but anyhow, here's the situation. Let's use the tree as a reference. Here's the walkway that comes in and goes to Helene's place here. And it goes around here, and there's another walkway here that goes to the next building, 3082.
There you go. That's a little better.
And, there are 3 people that live back here, 2 in this building, and then 1, here's their house here, and they're behind Helene, that use this same walkway. So,
You don't use my walkway.
pardon?
I'm the only one that uses my walkway.
Yeah, well, but they all use the path from the carport.
Mhm.
So here it is. This is the wall of the carport, right here. And then it starts down the walkway and this way, down this walkway. And I'm concerned about this white area here. This would go to Helene's place, and this would go to the other 3 apartments. And what has happened with this walkway is, you can see my walker there. The tree, you can see it's a good-sized tree. Its root went under the paving, and it raised the paving so that, the 2 paving blocks are like this. And so we said, we want something done about this. Whatever you're going to do, take care of the tree root and nip it off there and smooth it out. Or what they did was they ground down the block that had moved higher because of the tree. And then we said, well, there's still a trip hazard there. So they came and they put cement, and then they made it a lump. Okay, so we've got a lump as she's walking down. she's walking down a path, it curves,
Mhm.
and there's a lump to go over, and there's no reference for her. There's no, you can see the coping here, and she used to tap her paint against the coping. But at this point, from the carport down, there is no coping. There's nothing for her to use as a frame of reference. So what I think should be done, I don't know whether you're into the tree thing, but I think its root is only going
Sure.
to get bigger and worse. And the lump that they put there is really a hindrance. So I'd like to see the tree thing cut off. It won't hurt the tree, they live without some of their roots. And smooth this out and replace that. And in the meantime, if we can't do that, can she get a railing? It would go from this particular area, you can look at the lawn sprinklers, not lawn
Yes.
sprinklers, they're for the gardening area. There's 3 sprinklers there, and it's about, I don't know, 80, 90 inches that we would need a railing, and that would help. At least she would have a railing to use as a reference if you didn't want to fix the pavement issue permanently by taking care of the tree.
Okay.
We've also got some other photographs here.
Okay.
And I will leave this with you.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement. Has this come before the landscape committee yet?
No, I think it should be in and see.
Okay,
May I say something? Oh, my mic's off, huh?
real quick if you
Here
would,
you go.
please.
Oh, I just want to say, it really is, makes me feel less than human not to be able to go, I take care of my place inside. And I can't get up that hill and get down because it's too steep for me and I have nothing to hold on to. And I would like to be able to get up and go out and, you know, if I need to this way, people have
Okay.
to come, that's all.
We have a couple of people who want to ask questions. Okay, John and then Kush.
Does your colleague have visual issues?
My,
No, your colleague.
me?
Oh, she's
I'm
blind?
totally blind.
Blind, yeah.
I've been
That
blind, I've
answers
been
my
totally
question.
blind for 31 years. I can't see a thing.
Okay, Kush.
I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Helene
Helene, what's your last name?
Haber.
Haber.
T-A-B.
Haber, okay, sorry.
T-A-B-E-R.
Okay. And what is your manor number?
3083C.
3083C. Got it. Okay.
How did you know that?
Are you, one more question. Are you in touch with the Braille Institute?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Maybe sometime I might come and talk to you a little differently or send a person to come and talk to you. They have a program called Orientation and Mobility. They will be able to come and help you with some cane techniques.
May I just stop you for a moment?
Sure.
I've been totally blind for 19 years. I've been to Braille. They taught me how to use the cane.
Okay.
They taught me mobility. That's not the problem. I used to be walk up and down that path when it was flat. I take care of my home inside. I don't have help. I
Okay.
clean. So I know all that stuff. I know
Good.
how to do that. Thank you so much, though.
I'm thinking of you because I am partially blind too. And I
Yeah, well,
don't have much
this is
vision.
not
in-
partial. This is completely.
I understand what you're going through, and I'm very fearful of that happening to me.
You know what? Hopefully it won't.
Thank
But I
you.
will tell you something for everybody, you know, it's a scary thing to go blind, you know, and I do the best thing I can. And it's not fun to be blind, but there is, I'm just going to say this one thing. There is a perk to being blind. I found a perk to being blind. I'm 81 years old. I'm the only one of my friends that doesn't have to look in the mirror and see how old I am.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's very sweet of you.
We'll take the situation up and try to get some results done.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grant, who's our next speaker, please?
Yes, one moment. Next speaker will be Jules Zellon.
Oh.
Jules, you're muted. Is he actually in the waiting room there, Grant?
I do see Mr. Zellon on here. I can try to get him to unmute. While it looks like
Oh,
he's
hello.
muted. Mhm.
Jules, can you
Okay.
hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. The recent unsuccessful ballot initiative had a single purpose: to cut insurance costs and thus avoid a huge assessment hike. But problems abounded. Many members never received ballots. The telephone number the board gave out to request ballot replacements rang dead, which is pretty suspicious, don't you think? And of course, there was our legendary voter apathy. But there was a simple fix. The Good Governance Coalition had an army of volunteers ready to go door to door and get folks to request replacement ballots and then just vote. We just needed a couple of hundred more votes, but we also had to extend the balloting deadline so we could deliver those votes. Last year, when the third board desperately wanted the much despised omnibus CC&R amendment to pass, they simply extended the vote deadline. What could be simpler? Luckily, it failed anyway. So coalition members began pestering and ultimately imploring Board President Parsons to do just that, extend the darn deadline. Yet not only did he refuse, Steve actually claimed that I advised against an extension. Me, the guy who was most vocal about seeking the extension deadline. That should earn Steve 4 Pinocchios. Why would the third board deny a ballot extension that guaranteed to deliver the votes needed to pass the amendment and save us over $1,100 this year alone? They did it when they wanted the amendment to pass. This time they clearly did not want it to pass. Got it? Your board did not want the insurance change to be approved. It was okay with them if our assessments would rise. By refusing to extend the balloting deadline, the third board sabotaged the election. Shame on them, every one of them. Want to fix the problem? Elect candidates whose sole priority is the betterment of members' lives in this great community. Just contact a coalition member and sign up to help. And I waive the balance of my time. Thank you.
Okay, who's our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Sharon Courtney at 5237.
Good morning. I wrote a 2-page letter to Mr. Parsons. I don't know that he got it or not, but I live right next door to the lady that is requiring and asking for the rails. That is outside, and I thought we were not in a convalescent area over on our lane there. And I'm suggesting she puts the rails and the cars and what props or exercise equipment in the garage. And she's here 19 years, I'm here 19 months. So I'm not sure exactly what goes on, or I would have had hand copies for all of you there. And I'm not trying to be a bad person. I understand where she's coming from because my father had 22 years of a stroke in bed. So I certainly understand that, but I want you to realize there are some very active people around there, and I thought that's where I moved to. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
We do now have some email comments.
Okay.
Good morning, members of the board. I have a letter here from Jay Lessie. Dear board, my name is Jay Lessie. I've owned my condo for 12 years and work as an HOA manager in Orange County. Thank you for allowing members to email in our comments. Some of us are away at work and cannot be present at the meeting times or on Zoom. I have 3 things on my mind today. Number 1, some of you are running for re-election in the race for 3 board seats. How are we supposed to decide who to vote for? We don't really know what each of you stand for because you do not say much at the board meetings. HOA board meetings should be deliberative. That means that at board meetings, directors should discuss agenda items and then vote on each of them. This should be done as members observe. However, you very rarely have discussion or take votes. It's hard to know where each of you stand on the issues. Number 2, I'm with a group in the village called Concern. Our goal is to protect the architectural integrity of our buildings and eliminate eyesores. We are horrified that you are removing architectural wood trim from some models just because you do not want to paint it. This hurts the architecture, curb appeal, and value. It turns our buildings into stucco boxes. Some of the models you are defacing are the Villanova, Cordoba, San Clemente, San Sebastian, La Reina, La Corona, Granada, Valencia, and San Clemente. We bought our condos in the buildings we chose because we like the architecture. That architecture should not be degraded just because you don't want to maintain it. There's questions as to whether it's even legal to alter our building common area exteriors without a vote of the entire membership. And number 3, requiring members to give out their addresses during member comments seems unnecessary and can be intimidating. You're missing out on valuable member comments when people are afraid. You get very little comment as it is, considering that we have 6,102 units. Members have had their homes and cars vandalized because of their positions on HOA issues. Members can be verified by staff prior to giving their comments without the need to broadcast where they live at live meetings. Unless Davis Sterling requires members state their address, I urge you to use a procedure that will not intimidate and endanger your members. Thank you.
Okay, next.
That concludes our speakers.
And that is all we have. You know.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've talked about Helene's situation. We'll take that up. We do have a program for grinding down concrete, and in the past, we have gone in and put tree rings around the roots to keep them from going into different areas that would lift the pavement, go into foundations of places, things like that. So that's something that we can look at and try to solve that problem. Any other comments about that? Okay, on insurance, anybody like to respond to Jules? Okay, Robert?
Well, Jules's comment really was more about the board's attitude, behavior regarding the ballot, not specifically about the insurance issue, but the ballot itself. And while Jules is certainly entitled to his opinion, and he certainly has every opportunity to express that opinion, I personally disagree with his characterization of the board as intentionally sabotaging the ballot. The board was very interested in the ballot being approved. The board took appropriate steps to have that ballot approved. And I'm sorry, Jules, if 46% of the people fail to vote, we can't do much about that. As for your current statement that you guaranteed that the ballot would pass, You have made that kind of statement previously and then backed away from it. So I'm not sure that that carries much weight with me.
Any other comments on this? Okay, we've heard from Sharon. Courtney, anybody want to address her comments? I think what you brought up, we'll take into consideration. I think it can be done for less problems than what we think. So we'll definitely be looking into that. Okay, Jay Lessie, he talked about different things here, 3 topics. The re-election, people coming up for re-election that he didn't know where people stood on topics. I think that that can be taken care of very simply. And remember, Jay, that you're going to have a meet the candidates situation coming up very soon. And that's where they have to respond to questions. They have to state where they stand. So that, I think, can be taken care of that way. Concern about architectural beauty, wood trim reduction. I'd first like to ask either Jeff or Siobhan if you have any comments about that. I think they may be talking about the parapet removals.
I'm not don't know the specifics, but we can follow up with that and bring it back to the right committee for you.
Okay. Any other comments about that part?
Steve?
Yes,
If you
go
don't
ahead.
mind, I'd like to make a comment about the first issue about board members demonstrating where they stand on issues. And Jay, you're right, that when we come to this kind of board meeting, there isn't a lot of discussion. And there's just motions are approved or they fail. However, if you really want to know the opinion or the position of each board member on an issue, really you should attend or review the committee meetings, because that's where all the discussion takes place. For instance, should a tree be removed or not removed? Should we do this kind of landscaping or that kind of landscaping? In M&C, the same kinds of discussions take place among all the committee members, and that's where all the debate and open discussion, and those meetings are all open to the membership to attend, to participate in, et cetera. So if you really are interested in knowing the views of the different members on issues, that's one place that you could get that kind of information.
Okay, any other comments on that point? Okay, his last point was,
Steve?
yes,
Just
go
one
ahead.
second. And since the committee meetings are on Granicus, we understand that Mr. Lessie works, and so anybody who is at work when the meeting is going on does have the opportunity to view it later.
That's true. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yes, I would, as an incumbent, I would like to speak on that. And Robert Muchnick did mention the committee work. I chair 3 committees. I'm very active on the committees. And that's, if you don't attend the committee meetings, you won't see the work that this board does, because we all belong to several committees. So I just urge you to please attend some of the committee meetings. Most of them now are on Granicus, and you can see that the input that this board has on committees, and we make resolutions that we bring to the board for board approval. So we speak, and Brace is also an incumbent, and he's on several committees as well. So that's where we really speak up. So I just thought I'd say that. Thank you.
Any other comments about that? Reza?
Yeah, I just voice the same thing as everyone else says. All of the discussion takes place in the committee. The board meeting is the final approval of the decision that was made during the committee meeting, which all the facts are discussed and all the decisions are made, and people view their point of views. And believe me, there are a lot of views on every issues before it comes to the full board approval. And that's how it takes place. If that process is not clear to the member that where they can get the actual information, they need to do a little bit of their homework too and learn how the process works here. It's not that the issue comes here to the board and that's why everyone say yes and that's done. There are a lot of discussion and there are a lot of opinion given during those committee meetings, and that's where the action take place. the board is pretty much at the end, the seal of approval of all of those discussion and comments that are made. So if you're interested in knowing what I think or anybody else on the board, go listen to those committee meetings, and then you can make up your mind that if somebody is working for you or not, and that's up to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. On to his last point here, members should not have to give their address. Well, there are a couple things that enter in here. We need to know who a person is. Are they a member? Are they a lessee or what? We talk with with owners and members, which are our members. So we want them clearly identified. We have had some people in the past come and try to speak, and they aren't even in our mutual. So that is not to happen. As far as endanger members, I see no reason for your discussion on this topic. See no endangerment to members. As far as embarrassment, we are not here to embarrass anyone, but we want to hear from people. And we want to know where you live, and if you got problems, we want to know about them so we can come and see what they are. So I'll leave that with you. Are there any other comments from any of the board members?
Yeah, on that issue, there are a lot of confusion even at the member, they live in United or Third Mutual. That's why we're asking, because sometimes member comes here that live in United by mistake, and they want to ask for, issues that totally unrelated to the Third Mutual. And that's why giving the address or Manor number helps to understand that you're living, and that's where we can help you. Other than that, that's the only reason for it. I assume that was the only reason, unless there's other reason that I'm not aware of.
Thank you. Any other comments? Craig?
As far as members' vehicles being vandalized, that obviously is not something that's acceptable. And I'm sure that our security department would be happy to respond to any calls of vandalism.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments, we'll go on to item 10, the CEO and COO report. And I believe there's a presentation coming with us.
We do have a presentation. I have 4 quick comments that I wanted to prepare for you. President Parsons, member of the board, and residents. A couple things that updates. Pool 1 boiler has arrived finally, and so our plumbing department is putting that piece of equipment back into place. We anticipate that by the end of the week, we'll have the boiler in operation, which will take a day or two to heat up the pool. So we're looking at Friday or Saturday to have it back in operation. So we're looking forward to that. Pool 1, where we've had a boiler out and it took us forever to get it shipped from back east. So we're pleased to announce that. Second thing is on an operation point of view. Unfortunately, because of COVID and some individual positions that haven't been able to be filled and vacated, we had to close our walk-in traffic to Manor Alterations, and I just wanted to remind folks that Manor Alterations is still open though. Please feel free to call them. They can call them at 949-597-4616, that's the phone number, or they can also email them at alterations@vmsinc.org. So we're taking input from all our residents that have a need to process through Manor Alterations. Fully open. The only thing you can't do is walk in at this point in time because of that COVID situation and the employee situation. And then last thing I wanted to mention before, or 2 things I wanted to mention was RFIDs. Our president mentioned that in her presentation earlier. The RFID decal appointment is encouraged for people to come down and get your RFID for your car. That program has been very successful in allowing people to enter into the village more efficiently through the gates. And with that RFID, it's $25, and they can contact directly by calling or emailing resident services to set up an appointment for that RFID. And then the last thing, I've been giving you updates. As you know, the COVID scenario still is out there with us. Unfortunately for the Laguna Woods, which is the city of Laguna Woods, our zip code, we've had an increase in the last 2 weeks of 20 cases. So that is a pretty significant increase in just a 2-week period. So I want people to be aware of it, that they need to be very careful out there. This is a very, very strong variant. and it is spreading rather quickly. The impact that I can show you relative to Orange County is that we now have hospitalizations up to 538 hospitalizations in Orange County and 124 in ICU. These numbers are way above what they were June when we reopened the scenario. So be aware of that, and just wanted to keep the number of cases that were reported yesterday were 2,117 cases. Robert had a question.
Jeff, is there any update information related to what's happening with the virus as it impacts the towers?
I don't have any information on that,
Because
Robert.
what I
but
heard
can-
yesterday, my mother-in-law lives in the towers, and what I heard yesterday is that they are now closing the dining room in the towers because somebody in the towers has come down with the Delta virus, and they are now once again requiring masks, limiting the number of people that can enter the building. That's what my understanding, as of yesterday.
I'll seek some additional information from them, pass it on through an email to you, to the board members. And
Yeah,
and
just
we
think
are
the
certainly
community-
watching Orange County to see if there's any other directions, yeah.
Okay, Lynn, go ahead.
I'd like to ask you about, I understand there was a problem with Gate 6. Is that going to be, I don't think it's going to be as difficult as when Gate 10 was damaged, that arm over there. But what can you tell us about Gate 6 and that issue?
Lynn, I can answer that. It was damaged in a vehicular accident. The insurance company for the person who was involved in the accident is paying for the repairs. Unfortunately, some of the parts are on order and are falling prey to the supply chain issues that are facing many different industries.
It'll be a lengthy time when you get that back also.
Yes, they're obviously pushing as fast as they can, but they're dependent on the necessary equipment.
All right, thanks, Siobhan.
Okay, Reza?
Issue with the gate, gate 10, that was, had the same accident. It took about a month or so because the parts weren't available. So I assume this one is the same. Please don't hit hit the post because it takes a long time to fix it. The other issue, Jeff, on now that I think CDC approved the third vaccination, are we going to get involved getting our members vaccinated, or people going to be on their own going outside and getting the third vaccination? Or do we want to get involved, or we want to just let individual decide on that?
We have been in dialogue with Memorial Care, who helped facilitate our vaccination clinic. At this point in time, they are not in a position to move forward with that yet. I would imagine that in the next few weeks, we're going to hear more from the CDC approval and then the state approvals for that if it comes forward. And then we'll check with Memorial Care if they're going to be able to work with us on something like that.
So there is a potential that we might
It's a
be-
potential.
Okay.
We'll certainly be in dialogue with them on that.
Thank you.
Honorable President, members of the board, it's my privilege this morning to introduce you and our residents to new managers within Village Management Services. We haven't been able to introduce you to our managers because of the recent COVID shutdown. We're going to show a video introduction of these employees. They will include a brief introduction of each of the employees and the expertise and talents they bring to our organization. So without further ado, please meet our new managers.
Stacy Griffith. Stacy, with more than 20 years' experience in the cable call center industry, began working in Laguna Woods Village in 2012 in the Broadband Services Department as a customer service representative. She advanced to the role of Broadband Billing Coordinator, but departed in 2015 to return to her home state of Florida as a corporate training manager. In 2016, she returned to the village as a training and development coordinator and, in 2018, stepped into the resident services supervisor role, overseeing back office and call center operations. In her new role as the resident services manager, Stacy will oversee both front and back office operations for resident services, providing leadership and development to the supervisory team, exceptional customer service, call center analysis, and budget planning as required.
Hello, my name is Stacy Griffith, and I'm the Customer Service Manager for Resident Services. I've been working here in this community since 2012, and over that time, I've come to learn and appreciate the community as a whole and the job that we hold here servicing the community. It is my hope that I will work toward eliminating the separation with which we do business today and work toward a more unified goal of serving the Laguna Woods residents as efficiently and as effectively as possible. I want to make sure that when you call into resident services and you request a service, that we greet you with a smile and that we do everything that we can to make sure that your needs are met in a timely fashion. I also want to make sure that I coach and develop our team so that when you do call in, that you get the best service, that it's done efficiently, and that we go that extra mile. It is my hope that through coaching and development, through interdepartmental relationships strengthening and meetings so that we can know what each other needs to be able to move forward, that we can bridge that gap and work together for a unified purpose. I look forward to serving you here in Laguna Woods. Thank you.
Village Management Services Manor Alterations Manager Robbie Doncost holds a bachelor's in architecture and is a licensed architect and general contractor. After working for several large California-based developers, he established Pacific Coast Development in 1989, providing services in property management, construction administration, and general contracting. With more than 25 years of industry experience, he has been involved in all phases of commercial, retail, mixed use, office building, podium mixed use, and parking structure services. In the past 10 years, his company's involvement in projects now totals more than 5 million square feet of gross leasable area. Doncost oversees the Manor Alterations Division and is the staff officer assigned to the 3rd and United Architectural Control and Standards Committees. Very well received by the boards and the community is the new Manor Alterations News Bulletins, which are produced bi-weekly to better inform members, realtors, and contractors regarding important manor alterations issues.
My name is Robbie Doncost. I am the Manor Alterations Manager here in Laguna Woods. I've been here in the village for approximately a year. I'm excited about being a part not only of the current format that we have in Laguna Woods Village, but also the exciting new news of bringing forth new ideas and invoking more efficient operations within the village such that we can be more efficient and reduce staff in our working ability to provide good services to our members. Manor Alterations has been working to increase staff to provide better levels of service. We've provided a change in level services by incorporating what we now call a conveyor system, which allows us to take in phone calls, emails, and provide them to a select group of trained specialists that can then assist the members and owners in preparation of a complete application. So we are here to service the village. We are here to be more of a dynamic interface with the needs of the village. We welcome phone calls. You don't have to just fill out paperwork and learn on your own, though we encourage it. But we are welcoming to those questions and emails, whether it's by phone or electronic, and we can assist in any inquiries you might have. Thank you for the time.
Michael Carr has been promoted to the Human Resource Services Department Safety Manager from his previous position as Safety Supervisor. Michael plans, develops, and implements company and community safety and hazard material programs, assists with labor relations and legal issues. He also manages the company's workers' compensation program, ensures compliance with all safety and hazardous material regulations, and manages the safety compliance specialist. He recently was a major contributor to the company's pandemic safety efforts. Michael holds a bachelor's degree in English from Auburn University in Alabama and has been with the company for 27 years.
Hello, my name's Michael Carr. I'm the HR Safety Manager here at Laguna Woods Village. I'm coming up on my 28th year here in the community, so go quite a ways back, as I say. I'm basically not a micromanager. I tend to be more of a delegator. I like to hire smart, capable people, put them in a position to succeed and get out of their way, and hopefully they do. And provide direction as needed as we go through things and tackle different projects. I hope to improve the village, since I'm HR safety with emphasis on safety in this point, by making the village safer. The primary focus obviously is on employees and doing compliance with Cal OSHA, but there's a lot of overlap by doing the safety function in the community that could make things safer for residents as well. I look forward to continuing in this new role as manager for many years to come.
Our new Equestrian Center supervisor, Laura Cabarrubias, is a California native who grew up riding and working with horses in the Bay Area, but fell in love with Southern California. Laura's passion for working and competing with horses began at a young age. In 2006, she started her own sport horse boarding, breeding, and training facility, which she ran for 10 years before moving to Washington State to be near family. She has experience as a clinic host, a rated show manager, and a horse show judge, and was the director of equine services for one of the largest therapeutic riding centers in the U.S. She has extensive experience in teaching riders and developing horses in multiple riding disciplines. She has ridden and taught English and Western lessons, but her primary riding discipline now is dressage. Jean Chestnut. Jean has been employed with the Laguna Woods Village Social Services Division since 2008. She began working as the administrative specialist and was later promoted to intake coordinator and is now currently the administrative supervisor. She supervises the overall non-clinical administrative functions and staff and offers guidance and training while delegating work tasks. Jean's work involves regular contact with residents and their families, other divisions, departments, vendors, physicians, attorneys, public and private health and social service agencies, and other healthcare professionals. She also is the liaison to the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, which provides support to village residents needing emergency financial assistance. Jean found her purpose and passion to assist older adults after many years of caring for her own mother, who lived to be 96 years old.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. It's nice to put faces with names. So welcome aboard to everybody. I think we've been working with several of these folks already, and they're proving out to be very, very good employees. So any other comments from the CEO or COO? Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for him? Okay, yes, go ahead.
We were supposed to get a new director for the MNC. Has he started?
Yes.
Go ahead.
He started on Monday, yesterday.
We didn't hear anything about him.
Well, because the videotape was done previously, we will be having other managers coming up at your next meeting. We'll be doing some other managers that have come on board just recently and putting that same presentation for you.
What was his name?
Manuel Gomez.
Gomez. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to item 11, consent calendar. I hear a motion to accept the consent calendar.
I make the motion to accept the consent calendar.
Okay, second? Who was second? Okay. Okay, any comments, questions about it? Okay, we'll consider this approved by consensus. And going on to unfinished business. We're going to talk about, we're going to entertain a motion to adopt a resolution to amend the the guidelines for financial qualifications policy, net worth requirements for process improvements to resale documents. And it's met its 28-day notification, and I'll turn it over to Lynn to talk about this.
Yes. Thank you, President Parsons. We have some changes that have been requested to be made, and I'd like to turn your attention to page 18 of 54 of that resolution. Item 12A, page 18 of 54. We're going to add in here, we're going to say, in accordance with the governing rules of Third Laguna Hills Mutual, the prospective member understands that he or she may accept or refuse to accept the non-standard landscaping. And the addition in here will be accept fruit trees which must be removed from the common area. Further, the prospective member understands, so that was the addition, except fruit trees which must be removed from common area. Furthermore, the prospective member understands if he or she accepts it, he or she also accepts all future responsibility for its care and maintenance and all associated costs thereof. Refer to Third Mutual's landscape manual on our website. That's the first change. Thank you. On the next one, agenda item 12A, page 30 of 54. And the sentence talking about the applicant to obtain the prior written approval, please capitalize and bold the word prior. Okay, thank you. The next item, page 33 of 54, item number 2 should read as follows. Savings accounts in U.S. banks and U.S. credit unions. The change is we added U.S. in both instances. Sorry?
What line are you reading?
Item 2, well, I have to look it up if you want the line number. Hold on.
Yeah, it's line 2 on page 33. It starts out by saying savings accounts.
Yeah, page 32. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
In U.S. banks, that's what you said, right?
Yes, U.S. banks and U.S. credit unions is the addition, U.S. All right, page 41 of 54, bold the following paragraph. New alterations may require both city and mutual permits. So before you make decisions on modifications to your unit, call the Manor Operations Department at 949-597-4616, paren, in the community center, close paren. Thank you. Next line. Page 41 of 54, the next line should read, property tax bills for your condominium will come directly to you. That's the correction, to you, from the Orange County Tax Assessor.
That's a second bullet up from the bottom.
And what was the first one?
The fourth bullet up from the bottom. Everything there bolded.
Okay, Kush? Got it?
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Fourth from the bottom, you said, right?
Yes. All right, on page 42 of 54, the fourth item in first line should read as, I am aware I may need to obtain city and community permits before. That's the only change there. Before is in bold. Okay?
Is everybody up with us on that?
Before starting any alterations to my unit. Excuse me?
Yeah, just want to be sure everybody got that. That's
Yep.
the fourth line down. First sentence, 2/3 of the way across, before, to be bold. Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
But yeah, it's real important to get that word bolded. Okay, page 47 of 54, item 12 should read as follows. Guests may stay a maximum of 60 days in any 12-month period, and only while and this is bold, only while the qualifying senior resident is in residence. Okay? I think those are the corrections. So this has passed this 28-day review. And it's open now to make a motion for approval.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept this? Annie? Second? Oh, raise it, go ahead. Okay, any discussion on this?
Yeah, quick question.
Go ahead.
With these changes, does it have to, we can vote on it now? It doesn't have to sit another 28 days?
No, no, it does not.
Okay.
And it was coordinated with staff also.
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so if there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead for a vote. All in favor, can signify by raising your hand. Okay, any opposed? I think it's unanimous. Okay, onward to new business. Entertain a motion to approve a resolution to transfer discretionary funds to Southwest Bank and give Sageview 90-day termination notice.
President Parsons,
Go ahead.
I will read the resolution.
Okay,
This resolution is for account transfer. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Discretionary Investment balance as of July 31st, 2021 was $25,183,000, 334 plus 24. Oh my gosh, it got down to the nth degree. And whereas the discretionary account is an investment account that allows the corporation's investment manager to buy and sell investments without the board's consent for each trade. And whereas the funds maintained in the discretionary account, in the opinion of the managing agent, are not required within a reasonable time to pay obligations of the corporation. And whereas the board desires to transfer discretionary investment funds to a California bank account where the funds are covered by insurance provided by the federal government. And now therefore be it resolved August 17, 2021, that this corporation is hereby authorized to open a new bank account whereby the bank is headquartered in California and whose funds are fully insured by the federal government. And resolved further that the board of this corporation hereby authorizes the transfer of $25 million from the discretionary investment account currently held by Fidelity Investments to the newly opened bank account. And resolved further that the board of this corporation hereby authorizes the managing agent of this corporation to provide old investment manager Sageview a 90-day termination notice as outlined in the Investment Advisory Services Agreement dated October 1, 2019. And resolve further that at the conclusion of the 90-day termination of the Investment Advisory Services Agreement dated October 1, 2019, the balance maintained in the Fidelity investment account is authorized to be transferred to the newly created bank account whose balance is fully insured by the federal government. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
okay, do I hear a motion to accept this? Okay, Kush? Is there a second? Okay, Donna? Discussion. Kush, go ahead.
I have one thing to mention, the subject over here. It just says investments to bank account. Can we change that to Sunwest Bank?
Okay, where are you on the resolution?
He's on
This
page,
On the title page of this.
on the
Okay.
staff report, he's on the staff report.
It's on the staff report.
Yes. The subject says transfer of discretionary investments to bank account. Instead of that, change it to Sunwest Bank account.
Well, this is a staff summary, we understand. That's why it's further clarified in the resolution.
I understand, but it will remain as record instead of.
Yeah,
just saying-
but it says in the body,
I
it
know.
talks about it.
I
But-
read that.
But it doesn't say transfer from Sageview to SunWest. It says transfer discretionary investments. Investments are currently with Sage through Fidelity, and the bank account will be with SunWest. So unless you're gonna change both things at the top, it doesn't make sense to change just
Do
one.
that then. Make it specific, let it be known.
The resolution states transfer.
Yeah, I understand the resolution says that specifically below, but I'm just talking of the title. When you're searching 10 years from now, you will just bypass it.
Okay,
It will show up in the
what's the
title
feeling of the
even when
board
you're
on
doing a
that,
search.
on changing?
I don't care.
Why are you resisting to change that? Just change the
He's,
name.
no, he's asking what the board thinks.
Oh, I didn't hear
Yes.
that part.
Okay, let's just take a vote. All in favor of changing the title to be more explicit? Raise your hand, please.
You
Okay.
may
All
also
against?
utilize electronic voting.
No, that's okay.
Why do you need a vote for that?
Well, we want to know what the board thinks. Is a title necessary? Okay, I call for a vote. All against changing the title? Let it be known by raising your hand.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Could you restate that? I didn't clearly understand what you said.
Nobody's voted on anything.
What was there a second to that motion, President Parsons?
Teflon attitude.
Yes, yes. Oh, on his motion to change?
Yes.
I don't think so. Was there a second to it?
No.
No.
Okay, I take it back.
Can we read the motion, what the motion's saying, before I, I
Okay.
raise my hand
Can
to
you read
approve
back?
it?
There is no motion.
What is the motion now?
Are you making a motion, Kush?
No, I'm just
okay.
requesting, while in the discussion, that we change the subject line to read Sunwest Bank. That's all. I'm not making a catastrophic change.
No. That should be a motion, right?
Why should it be a motion?
Correction, because that's
It's a
correction. Is a
We're actually
correction?
changing a document.
You
Okay.
made so many changes just now in the previous item, like 20 pages of changes.
Yes,
Yeah, and
we
we
did.
didn't make any motion to change that. We only made one motion to
To accept it, yes, but we had discussion with it. Okay? Are you willing to make a motion or not?
I'm requesting to change the title to read Sunwest Bank. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, but do you want it to be a motion? A motion,
Is it necessary to make a motion?
yes,
Yeah.
to change the document. If not, we'll continue on. Go ahead.
If you wish that, then I will make a motion to change the title subject line to read to investments to Sunwest Bank.
Okay, is there a second? If not, the motion dies for lack of second. Okay, any other discussion? Go ahead.
President, if you don't mind, I'd like to just give the members a little background on this, since many of them will not see the staff report. And I think it would be helpful to understand, this is a large amount of money, $25 million. And I think that it'd be helpful to share with the members how we arrived here.
Can I make one
Point
request?
of order. Your mics are on and Director Munchnick has the floor.
Okay, Robert, before you start, I know you had other board members that worked with you on this. Could you introduce them and then go into your presentation?
Absolutely, I was going to. Third Mutual, based on direction from legal counsel and interpretation of Davis Sterling, arrived at the conclusion that our money invested with Sageview did not meet Davis Sterling guidelines. And Third Mutual then set up an investment committee consisting of Director Craig Wayne, Director Donna Rain-Sosak, and myself to look into options for where we could place the investment money, the $25 million that Third has in the discretionary fund, into a location, an institution that would meet the guidelines of Davis Sterling. We went out as a committee and did our work and arrived at a conclusion that we could place our money in a state bank, State of California bank, and that the money could be placed in the bank in secure, they're not called investments in the bank. The bank, they call them savings accounts, because there's no chance of loss of money. in terms of a savings account, as opposed to an investment account, which is what Sageview was doing with our money, investing it in Fidelity, so that money could go up or down, depending upon the market, depending upon the government and how they were paying out on treasuries. So we moved the money out of investments with Sageview, but kept the money at Sageview until we had a new institution that we could agree upon was the proper place to move our money, or move your money. And we interviewed a couple of banks. The successful bank is SunWest Bank, which is a California bank, and it is a privately held bank, and it has $1.7 billion in investments. And we met with them, and they agreed to accept the transfer of the money. So we are giving Sageview 90 days notice. As of close of business today, they will be given 90 days notice to terminate our account with Sageview and transfer the money to SunWest. The money in SunWest, just so you understand, Sageview has been charging us what amounts to 7 basis points a year for their advisory fee. That's 7 basis points per year equals $17,500 that we've been paying Sageview. But since we moved our money into the treasuries in Sageview, Sageview has been providing no financial advice because the money just sits there. So we've been paying Sageview on a monthly basis at this moment in time for really no service, no financial advising. So we will save $17,500 by transferring the money away from Sageview, and SunWest has now agreed to pay us a minimum of 12 basis points, which means that'll bring in interest of about $30,000. So in the first year alone, it'll be a turnaround of approximately $47,500 to the benefit of Third Mutual on what will now be our savings account as opposed to our investments. Understand that you say, I'm sure some of you have questions about, well, how does a bank insure $25 million? Because most accounts, most banks will tell you they're federally insured up to $250,000. Well, this bank, as all the other banks that we interviewed or considered, are part of a consortium. And what they do is they take in our $25 million and they will portion that money out in $245,000 allotments to approximately 100 different banks that are all part of this program, so that our money will be in approximately 100 accounts at $245,000 per account. So each one will be federally insured. But the money and the interest is all guaranteed by SunWest here locally. So we don't have to worry about dealing with a bank in Iowa or a bank in Maryland, et cetera. We'll be dealing and getting a single statement monthly from the bank here in California. Craig and Donna, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to it. They were both very actively involved in the whole process, and I appreciate all the help and support that they provided. In fact, Craig provided leadership in terms of meeting with the banks. So Craig or Donna, do you have anything you want to add?
I think you covered it all.
Okay.
And I agree. Thank you very much for a thorough
I hope
coverage of
that
that.
gives some explanation.
Okay, John?
Was there a reaction from Sageview?
There's been no reaction from Sageview yet because it's it's as of today that we will be notifying them. So it's the vote on this resolution that once we pass this resolution, that'll be to then notify Sageview. So Sageview will be notified either later today or tomorrow.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, Reza?
I should have raised my hand first. I was looking at what Kush was saying about the title. I think what he wanted to do on the title is transfer of discretionary investment from Sageview to the SunWest Bank to be accurate on the title. I think that was what he was trying to say. But just putting SunWest doesn't explain the whole thing, that going from where to where. I think if the subject want to change from with transferring from Sageview to Sunwest, that I think cleared the title. That's what, after sidebar discussion, I think I came up with.
So are you making a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion for that to clear the title.
And second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
So could you?
A point of order, I believe we already voted on this. So are we?
No,
We're in
no, we
discussion.
haven't.
Okay, sorry.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Okay, Grant, can you read back the
Okay,
motion,
I'm
please?
referring to the staff report, because you
Yes.
raised it, you're referring to the staff report that we
Yes.
already voted on.
No, we didn't. We're discussion.
Yeah, we did.
We asked for a
Oh, the
motion, but it died.
It died. Okay, I apologize. I was trying to keep us on track here.
Okay, Grant, go
I
ahead.
apologize.
I believe Director Creamy asked for a motion to clarify the title on the motion for SunWest Bank and was seconded by Director Bada.
Oh, transfer of discretionary investment from Sageview to Sunwest Bank account. That clears the title, I guess, going from where to where. Just rather saying that, to a bank account. If that satisfies the clear the title.
Okay, discussion? Okay.
I have no
all in-
objection to
go ahead.
that. That's fine.
Okay.
If
Okay, all
it
in
works for
favor?
everybody.
All in favor of the motion?
President Parsons?
Yes.
There is also the utilization of the screen that directors may use as well.
Okay, let's go ahead and use our screens to vote.
I don't think it's active.
Okay, we have several that haven't, there we go. Yeah.
Is mine saying no?
Craig, have you voted there?
Yeah, I'm voting.
Okay. Yes or no?
What is your vote, Director Wayne? Yes.
Why is the red mark next?
Okay.
Cushman against.
Okay, voting is
On the
in.
right side, okay.
Voting is in, and it passes. 8-2. Okay, so we'll change the title on that.
Thank you.
Cush vote against.
Okay, now back to voting on the overall proposal. Any more discussion? Okay, if not, let's go ahead with the voting on this. It's electronic here.
The same motion is up on my screen, Grant, as was like before.
Yeah, go ahead and this is now the main motion.
Yeah. This is now the main motion.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
title was changed.
Right.
Okay, still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 have voted.
If anybody's screens are having issues, you can just let me know the vote and I can put it in for you.
Annie, yes. There you go. Okay. 10 votes for, 0 against, so it passes. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to item 14, committee reports. We'll do the Finance Committee and Finance Report by Director Muchnick.
Okay, thank you, President Parsons. I'll try to move this through as quickly as possible, given the time of the day. In the last week, you've had a lot of numbers presented to you, starting with the third version of the budget for 2022. Today, we'll share with you more numbers that represent the revenue and expenses for the month of June 2021. As usual, I will share with you, where appropriate, comparative figures for the previous 2 months, April and May. Grant, if you'd move to the next slide, please. This slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, April, May, and June. Looking at the far left-hand side of the slide, assessment revenue year-to-date at the end of April is $17,300,000, which is $2,883,000 more than reported for the previous month of April. For the first 6 For the first six, I'm sorry. I apologize, I read that wrong. It says, looking at the far left-hand side of the slide, assessment revenue year-to-date at the end of June is $17,300,000, which is $2,883,000 more than reported for the previous month of May. For the first 6 months of 2021, we have averaged $2,883,333 of assessment revenue each month. Since we receive our assessment revenue from GRF monthly, it's always going to be the same. I ask that you now look at the non-assessment revenue, which is the set of bar graphs second from the left side of the slide. Non-assessment revenue for the month of June is a positive $817,000. This is an increase of $137,000 over the previous 5-month total of $680,000. Now, shifting your gaze to the bar graph in the middle of the slide, you'll be looking at total revenue, which for the 6 months ending June 30th was $18,117,000, an increase of $3,020,000 over the month of May. The set of bars second from the right of the slide for the cumulative months of April, May, and June. Third had $15,483,000 in total expenses. This represents an increase in total expenses of $2,719,000 for June over May. Expenses for each of the past 3 months have been fairly similar month over month. Looking at the bar graph on the far right side of the chart, this is the visual for net revenue. Third Mutual had a net revenue of $2,634,000 for the 6 months ending June 30th. This is up an additional $301,000 from the previous month of May. While this continues to be good news, I caution you not to expect this trend to continue. Many of our large-scale projects that are provided by outside contractors have just gotten underway, and we anticipate being billed by these contractors in the coming months. Grant, next slide, please. This slide represents data for income for the operating fund only for the 3 months ending June 30th. Looking at the bar graph at the far left of this chart, assessment revenue over the most recent 30 days of June was $1,748,000, the same for each of the 2 previous months. We expect monthly figures to be the same again, since this is transfers to our account from the monthly assessments each member pays. Now, shifting your gaze to the second set of bar graphs from the left, non-assessment revenue increased by $136,000 for the previous 3 months at the end of June. We had a total non-assessment revenue of $738,000. Now, focusing on the middle of the slide, Third Mutual had a total revenue in the operating fund of $1,856,000 for the month of June, which is down slightly from the previous month by $31,000. Adding the first 5 months together, total revenue for the operating fund only for 2021 is $9,338,000. The bar graphs from the far right side of the chart depict total expenses for the same operating fund, April, May, and June, which was $11,222,000, an increase in total expenses for the past month of $2,187,000. This slight increase in expenses was not only expected, it is really a very significant amount in the overall, it is not really a very significant amount in the overall scheme of things. Subtracting total expenses year-to-date from total revenue year-to-date takes us to the bar graph on the far right side, which leaves us now with a positive variance of $134,000 for the 6 months ending June. Grant, next slide. This slide compares our actual revenues and expenses to what was originally budgeted. The actual and budgeted assessment revenue continue to be one and the same month over month with no real variation. As I've stated earlier, we receive our assessment revenue distributed by GRF from the monthly HOA fee paid by each resident of Third Mutual. Therefore, if there's a change in any given month, the change comes in the non-assessment revenue. Currently, we budgeted, or should I say we expect more non-assessment revenue than we actually receive. For the 6 months ending
30th June, we budgeted for $1,083,000 in non-assessment revenue, but only received actual revenue of $817,000 for the 6-month period. The difference between actual and the budget is a negative $266,000. The negative variance carries over to the middle set of bar graphs, total revenue, which is a negative $266,000 in budgeted versus actual income. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the second section from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year-to-date were $2,782,000 less than budgeted. That's $18,265,000 minus the actual expenses, $15,483,000. That's how we arrive at the $2,782,000. The bar graph on the far right show us that Third Mutual is left with $2,516,000 revenue over expenses for year-to-date ending 6/30/2021. The $2,516,000 is derived by subtracting the $266,000 negative variance in total revenue from the positive balance of $2,782,000 in budgeted expenses compared to actual expenses. Next slide, please, Grant. This slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the month of June. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both April and May. The top bar in each category, which are green, represent the variances at the end of April, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of the variance for each category at the end of May. And finally, the bottom bar in each category, the brown bars, represent this reporting period, June. As you can see, looking at only the brown bars, which are the bars that are most significant for Third at this moment in time, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside service, employee compensation, net allocation to mutuals, and professional fees for the period ending June 30th. There's been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. While this is good news, again, I need to caution you that we do not expect this to continue, especially in the area of outside services for which we contract for roofing, tree trimming, slope maintenance, etc., which are big ticket items, as well as other outside services that we also contract for. The last 4 categories each continue to have an unfavorable variance. This has been an increase in the usage of water, which we will talk much more in depth about in the next few minutes. Donna, the chair of the Water Committee, will be talking about that. So we've also had an unfavorable variance in electricity that's continued to cause the current negative variance for the month of June. In particular, as Donna will talk about, we saw a very low, unexpected level of rainfall, which contributed to our use of water here in the village. The issue with insurance is one that we've talked about regularly for months, and as you know, the board is working very hard to address this moving forward. The cost of our property insurance premium went up dramatically last year, and we had already set the assessment before we knew the premiums. This year, in the budgeting process, we are compelled to recognize the extremely large impact that insurance will have on our budget, not only for 2022, folks, but I'm sorry to say in the years to follow. With regard to investments, with the very low, almost non-existent interest rates on our treasury investments, there's been a loss of $122,000 year-to-date. Early in this meeting, we have continued to address this issue by moving from Sageview and the charge of 7 basis points, which helps to drain our investment dollars, to a guaranteed interest in the amount of 12 basis points for secured money market funds and 15 basis points for 1-year CDs. Grant, next slide, if you please. This slide depicts 2 pie charts for comparison purposes, month over month, again, for the total non-assessment revenue. Looking at the pie chart for the end of June, overall, we see an increase of $136,606 in total non-assessment revenue. Comparing the 2 pie charts, May and June, we have seen a slight increase in the categories of fees and charges to residents and lease processing fees, which are to be expected at this time of year. In the categories of lease processing fee, indicate a decline in the number of renewals and also in new leases.
Just for your information, in February, 28.3% of the units in third were leased. As of July, that percentage is now 26.3%. So the percentage of leased units in third, at least at the moment, has gone down from the high in February to where we are today. And that obviously, that lease processing fee is related to the percentage of units that are leased. All right, while the resale processing fee remains stable month over month, the good news about this, which you will see later in the presentation, is the total resales year-to-date is up over the same time as last year, as is the average resale value. However, as Chairman DiLorenzo pointed out in her VMS presentation, the number of units for sale may actually be declining because we've seen the peak and we may not see as many as we move forward, but that remains to be seen. Next slide, please. As reported earlier, third had additional expenses of $2,719,000, which is actually slightly less than our expenses for May, for total expenses of $15,482,576 year-to-date. For those who continue to ask about the cost of our legal fees on a month-over-month, the fees decreased in June compared to May and represent in June about 1% of our total expenses. I want to make sure that everyone understands our legal fees are made up of two different expenses. Third's legal counsel, the law firm of Swedelson and Gottlieb, and the VMS legal expenses, of which Third is partially responsible. These expenses are minus the settlements Third receives for successful court cases and reimbursements from our insurance companies. What I can report to you is that we have begun to get a better handle on our legal expenses, and the past few months, our billings in this area have declined substantially. While this may not continue to remain true, please know that the whole board is working to control all of our legal expenses. Next slide, please. For this slide, I always like to direct you to look first at the lower right-hand corner. As of the 30th of June, Third had $31,208,000. This is an increase of almost $500,000 over the previous month. The replacement fund at the end of May was $19,506,000, while at the end of June, it was $19,820,000, an increase of $314,000 over the previous month in the category of replacement fund. Also, it should be noted that year-to-date, Third had $6,894,000 in contributions and interest added to these funds, while we had $4,326,000 in expenditures. So at the moment, things are continuing to move in the right direction, with contributions and interest outpacing expenditures by the $2,568,000 that we reported on earlier. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged approximately $29.6 million. Next slide. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation for Third for the past 3 years. Each month, resales continue to exceed the same month in the last 2 years. A total of 228 resales year-to-date is an increase of 90 over the same time last year. The good news continues in terms of resales. Looking at the top right-hand corner of this slide, we can see dollar-wise how we compare to average sales year-to-date. The average sale price per manor for the first 6 months of 2021 is $460,320. This is an increase of just over $44,000 in the average sale year-to-date when compared to last year. That concludes the Treasurer's report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 7th at 1:30. I'll assume that since our monthly board meeting is now in person, our Finance Committee will also be in person if COVID restrictions remain lifted. See you in the Community Center on the 7th of September. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, President Parsons?
Yes.
We did have Karen Shore's hand raised earlier that we had oversighted. I will now move her over so that she may ask her a question.
Okay, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, I put my hand up to discuss the Sage View issue, and Robert mentioned about a problem that the attorney found with Davis Sterling, I assume, since he mentioned law. And I was just curious, what was that problem that made you move from a investment type account to a savings type account?
Very simple. The requirement of the secure and safety of the investment is the primary issue for us in terms of that $25 million. And having it invested in bond funds and that type of thing was not guaranteeing the safety of the money. So we decided to shift the money. That's why we shifted it into the treasuries. And since it's in the treasuries, it makes no sense to leave it at Sageview because Sageview is still charging us the 7 basis points. And there's no benefit to having them handle our money any longer under those circumstances. So we're moving it to a California bank. And in fact, there's a new law that is currently being considered that would actually require it all to be in a California bank. So given all of that, that was the decision.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for your comment.
So excuse
Karen,
me.
Karen, this is not a
so the issue,
discussion.
yes?
This is not a discussion. If you want to take it up more with Robert, you
This
can
is a comment.
afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, just a comment. So the law that was being followed was actually for a future law that you anticipate being in place, not a past law that was not being followed. Is that correct?
It's twofold. One, the requirement of it being in a California bank is a future law. The current situation, interpretation from a legal standpoint, is that Davis Sterling requires us to have the money in a place where the safety of the money is guaranteed. So it's twofold. It's current law and future law.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we'll have a report of the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Director Ringdahl.
Thank you. The latest Architectural Control and Standards Committee meeting was held on July 26. There were several member comments discussed during, including the relatively high cost of solar panel installation relative to roofing warranty requirements. And Mr. Donacoste agreed to investigate the possibility of adding other vendors to our recommended contractor list, as well as relating costs to the number of roof penetrations required. Another member asked about approved gate color and sliding doors, as well as a couple of other questions. There was some immediate discussion on this. However, Mr. Donacoste subsequently answered these questions specifically from this member via email. Another member spoke against a specific manor alteration request, which had been previously discussed at an ACSC meeting. The request was subsequently denied by the board in agreement with the staff recommendation. Another variance request for handrail along a driveway was also rejected. Mr. Donacoste revealed manor installation staffing problems, mentioning some internal staff promotions and hiring of a new inspector, which should help alleviate the problem somewhat. Nevertheless, in part due to COVID-19 absences, it's been necessary to close the alteration desks briefly in the community center. And I think that was mentioned earlier by Mr. Parker. Director Muchnick requested a modification of the monthly mutual consent report to show a monthly comparison. Mr. Donacoste stated that these reports are currently done manually, but he's working with the tech department to automate the analytics and agreed to accommodate the request. Several minor changes to the permitless alteration policy were suggested to make it specifically tuned for Third Mutual rather than United, just a couple of minor word changes. The contractor violation policy was also discussed. Several suggestions were made toward the end of securing more timely service from contractors, and that will be explored further. The updated fee schedule was briefly discussed by Mr. Donacoste with basic agreement by the board and a suggestion that this would soon be ready for formal committee report. There was a subsequent meeting between the City of Laguna Woods and building personnel and the VMS staff on July 29, which was targeting better coordination between the two entities. And I understand it was quite productive. I will let further information on that be brought to you by the people who were at the meeting, namely our VMS staff. The next meeting of the Architectural Control and Standards Committee is scheduled for August 23, 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom as well as virtually. Thank you.
I have a question, President.
Yes, Lynn has a question.
I have a question. On number 9 in your minutes, permitless alteration policy, when Mr. Donkost talked about the section referencing the interior flooring policy, which was currently under review by other committees, I would like to see that. Where is that going to be reviewed? I'd like to make sure that hardwood floor policy, the interior flooring policy, is not bundled in this permitless alteration policy. I asked to have that separated out as a separate item. Well, that still should be in this committee, isn't that correct?
He's probably making a proposal on that, but like you say, it should come before a resident policy and compliance committee for final approval.
I had technical problems trying to get in on that meeting at this particular meeting. So now that I see the minutes, I have a question on that. So I'll write to the committee to make sure that it's in writing for the next committee meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Onward to the report of Communications Committee. Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Communications Committee did meet on August 4th. It was a short meeting, about an hour, but what the committee did was we discussed ways that board members and committee members can make presentations a little bit more lively, more engaging to the audience on some of the things that we came up with or some of the stuff that you were seeing today, like slide presentations by Director Munchnick, and Director Donna will be doing a slide presentation. So we just talked about how we can communicate more effectively and more lively with the residents about what's actually going on in the committees. Oftentimes, there are comments that we're not being transparent or we're not communicating. So the committee got together to just think of some creative ways that we would be able to incorporate with our committee reports so that they can be a bit more engaging. We also had some discussion around participation in writing articles for the Village Breeze in the third mutual section. So there was discussion about that. There weren't any action items to be taken. The next committee meeting is to be announced. It is a quarterly meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the report of the Maintenance and Construction Committee. Director Munchnick.
President Parsons, before I give my report on the maintenance and construction, I'd like to, if the board would be willing, I got notification from Steve Hormuth that we may have made a slight error in the titling of the motion for 13A, that our money is not actually invested with Sageview, it's invested with Fidelity. Sageview is just the advisor. So if we are transferring money, the transfer is from Fidelity to SunWest. So if we want to be accurate, I would like to, if the board would be willing to entertain a new motion related to, I don't know if this is out of order or not, President Parsons, but I just learned of this.
That's okay. We can bring it up.
Bring it up?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to then make a motion, if the board would be agreeable, to change the title on 13A, and where we had Sageview, replace that with just Fidelity. Because Fidelity is where our actual money sits.
I'll second that.
So I'd make that motion if there's a second.
I'll second.
Correct
Okay.
second.
Any comments or discussion? Okay, unless there's any objection, we'll consider it by consent. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve, for bringing it up. Okay, on to the Maintenance Construction Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Maintenance, it's very simple. This one is easy. Committee met on the 7th of July, and at our August, at the July meeting, I gave you an update on the activities, and therefore, there's nothing new to report from M&C. The next meeting of 3rd M&C is scheduled for Wednesday. I repeat, Wednesday, not the typical Monday, because Monday's a holiday. We're scheduled for Wednesday, September 8th at 1:30.
Thank you very much. In a report of the Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee, we are re-energizing this. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 1:30 in the boardroom and as a virtual meeting. Please go to Granicus to see the agenda of items, and if you wish, please be in attendance. Okay, onward to the Gardenville Rec Room Subcommittee. Director Jarrett.
We had our last meeting on the June the 8th. We're trying to schedule a meeting. We wanted to try to schedule it in September, but we will schedule it. It just hasn't been completed yet. Thank you.
Okay, and then continue on, if you would, please, with report of the Landscape Committee.
All right, the landscape meeting was held on August 5th in the boardroom. It was noted that we have expended all our funding for performing turf reduction projects this year, but that work is definitely planned for 2022. We remind residents that they may do their own turf reduction projects with permission and at their own expense. You need to fill out a form on our website and Landscape will contact you. One of the things, because water is becoming so dominant with our conversations, we really need to focus on reducing the turf. And I think what the Landscape Committee may do is to put on a campaign to make awareness, make people aware that they can do their own turf reduction projects. Because some of the people that have done it over the years, it's been very successful. Anyway, the committee made the recommendations for tree removal approvals, one denial and one landscape revision, which were on the consent calendar today. By the way, the denial one we had was for tree removals, but instead there will be a hard trim that is direly needed for all 4 trees that badly needed trimming. These trees were on a slope, and they're just absolutely huge. Hadn't been trimmed for many years. That's why they're going to do a hard trim, and that'll remove about 25% of those trees, and it made the resident very happy to just keep those trees and just get them trimmed. It's been a wild month for weed control. The grass is looking green and being mowed often enough, but the weeds are really trying to take over. It's all the crews can do is to keep up with the weeds this year. They're worse than they ever were before. There have been problems with the contracting crew in the Gate 5 area. That contractor was let go, and some employees have been working weekends to catch up. There again, the weeds over there were just awful. Things are shaping up in that area now, so it's really, really good. I want to remind residents that we do not trim trees for views. You wouldn't believe how many calls we get about that. People they just have no idea. And the trees over the years have just grown so large, but we just cannot go out there and cut down trees because of views. That's just a reminder. At this time, I'm going to take you through a few slides that were created and reported on by VMS Landscape Director Kurt Wyman. They show some of the KPI, the key performance indicator. And this first slide is the same one that VMS Director DiLorenzo showed, but I'll give you a little bit more from our side about what's going on with this total tickets. The total tickets from 2018 to 2021 so far. You can see there's a lot of tickets. Back in 2018, there were 21,000 plus tickets taken care of and complaints. And now, at the end of June, we are at 13,800 some. One of the things that I want to let you know is that those tickets are not always requests to do work. Sometimes they're just questions. Sometimes, a few times, they're compliments, and then we get several requests. But the work gets done no matter what. As you can see, the ticket count's really going down. Landscape Director Kurt Wyman changed the amount of cycles when he came here from 1 cycle per year to 4. He has 8 crews out there, and their schedule can be found on our website. Next slide, please. This slide also takes us from 2018 to present. The bulk of the tickets have been more lawn repairs this year. It's really it's really something but the lawn repairs, because we've done a lot of work with the lawns. As you can see, this chart shows categories of lawn repair, leaves, mulch, weeds, sidewalks cleaned, shrubs pruned, replaced, and treated. And last year, aeration was done. This year, fertilization was done in the spring, and overseeding was done as well. All of this resulted in healthier grass, which requires more mowing, which shows on the types of tickets received. Last year, leaf pickup for those who needed that service, you can see it's very important, the leaf pickup. People are really happy with that. And the need for shrub pruning has grown. They are now replacing shrubs year-round. Once they catch up, they'll perform turf reduction in the summer and shrub replacement in the winter. Next slide, please. The average response time for key tickets is currently at 2.28 days, but was 1.47 prior to the malware problem. Most tickets come in on Monday, and most of them are taken care of by the end of the next day. This is just an average. Thank you, Grant. There's always a great deal of work going on in landscaping. I applaud Mr. Wyman for his efforts in handling the needs of the entire community. And on behalf of Thursday Landscape Committee, I want to say that we appreciate those efforts. We've come a long way since his takeover of landscaping 2.5 years ago. And one of the major things that we like to think, we try to work on is water savings. And we're going to be working on that more and more, especially now that we have a new Water Conservation Committee chair. So thanks for Donna. Our next meeting will be September 29th in the boardroom at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of water, Water Committee Director Sostek will go ahead and walk us through a presentation she has.
Thank you very much. And Grant, if you will put up the first slide, please. You can skip the title and go right into the meat of it. While he's bringing that up, I just wanted to share with you, and you will see it on the first informational slide, the current drought, reduced snowfall in Northern California this past winter, and record low water levels in Lake Mead, which actually led our federal government just yesterday to declare a water shortage on the Colorado River for the first time in our history, have all combined with the recent increases in the cost of water by our water district to make water conservation more important than ever. We're fortunate in Third, and although you didn't hear it in the landscape report because we've heard it previously, most of our landscape water in Third Mutual is actually recycled water. So that's, in terms of conserving water itself, that's been a huge step, and we're really grateful for that. Unfortunately, our water must be purchased and imported. We actually don't have sufficient available groundwater supply, and 100% of our drinkable water has to be imported. Needless to say, it's very expensive to transport water those great distances. Last year, due to all of the above, our Third Mutual water bill was almost $3 million. On July 1st of this year, the El Toro Water District was forced to increase their rates. Depending upon water usage, the new annual water cost to Third Mutual is expected to be between $4 and $5 million. The actual cost will depend in large part on us. So if we can move to the next slide, I really want to share with you how we're billed for water. And I think comparing Tier 1, which is efficient use, to Tier 4, which is excessive use, is really quite dramatic when you can see it on the slides. Previously, and I have to tell you, the way they measure and charge us for water is in a cubic volume measurement that we're not used to, and that translates to roughly 748 gallons per volume measure. So know that that's what I'm referring to. In Tier 1, as you can see, we used to pay $2.65 for 748 gallons. That rate has gone up 7 cents per 748 gallons, effective July 1st. That doesn't sound like a lot, but remember how many manors we have. Remember how much water has to be used. And when you start multiplying that, fortunately, we're very grateful that most of our water consumption is in Tier 1. Tier 2 doesn't really affect us because it's got to do with efficient outdoor, and we have mostly recycled water for our landscaping, so I'll skip that. It's just there so that you know it exists. And I want to call your attention to Tier 3 and Tier 4. Tier 3 is inefficient use. You can see the difference. It used to be $6.21 for that same unit of measure that in Tier 1 is $2.65, and is now $6.78 for that same measure. And although our attention was always focused primarily on Tier 4, we're going to start looking at Tier 3 as well. And remember, keep in mind, most of our water consumption, residential consumption, and thank you all, is down in the Tier 1 category, but we've all got to do our part. Tier 4 is the one that's really the scariest. We have, then that's called excessive water usage. It used to be $7.95 per 748 gallons compared to that $2.65 in Tier 1. It's now $8.52. So as you can imagine, there are fortunately less than 50 meters, not units, meters, because some meters are single units, some meters are multiple in the multi-story buildings. And fortunately, there are less than 50 units, but for the month of June alone, that accounted for $15,000 of our water bill for Third. So we've really got to get after the excessive consumption as best we can. And so what I'd like you to do is move on to how we can help. Next slide. I don't expect you to memorize this. There won't be a test at the end of the day. And in fact, we're working very closely with our communications folks from VMS to prepare some posters on suggestions for water conservation. You'll be seeing them in the clubhouses. You'll be hopefully seeing them on the bulletin boards of the Gardenville associations. We're going to be asking them to do it. There will be reminders both not only in the Globe, but you will also can expect to see articles, brief ones, under Third Mutual in the Breeze, which is our wonderful publication. So you'll be seeing a lot of it, but I did want to call your attention to a couple of things. Simple things. Turning off the water when brushing your teeth or shaving. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it can save 10 gallons per person per day. Start thinking about multiplying that over the approximately 9,000 residents that we have living within Third, and it becomes quite a large number. Installing high-efficiency toilets. Actually, El Toro Water District has been great in rebating up to $100 for new installation of a high-efficiency toilet, and one of those can save up to 19 gallons per person per day. Shorter showers. 5 minutes is ideal. Anything less than the 10 that a typical shower is very helpful. Cutting that in half from 10 to 5 would save up to 12.5 gallons per person per shower. Again, we have approximately 9,000 residents in Third. Start multiplying that out. Washing full loads of clothes and dishes. Our new washers and dishwashers are much more efficient, but still, try and make them full loads. We can make it much more efficient. One of the exciting ones, because we really think about this, is recycling indoor water to irrigate your garden. One of the best suggestions I've seen recently is when you turn on the water you want hot water, but it takes a little bit of time for the water to come out of the faucet hot. Have a pitcher handy. Catch that cold water, it's clean, in a pitcher until the water gets hot, and then put that in your garden, on your house plants. Use it in your potted plants. It can really make a huge difference, and the estimate here is it could theoretically cut use sprinkling in the garden by hand. Those hoses that you're using look to you like outdoor water, but in fact, that's not landscaping water, that's residential water. That hose bib connected to your unit or your house is actually consuming drinkable water. So my favorite is actually the recycled indoor water. And please, I don't know how many are aware that if you need a walk-in tub for medical needs, walk-in tubs consume a great deal of water. If you need one for medical needs, rate adjustments through El Toro Water District are possible, and we will get some information out to the community on how to do that. So those are just a few of the suggestions. You will be hearing more. I would like you to move to our most important slide, the next one, checking for leaks. Please, we need all your help. Kitchen, bathroom, laundry, anywhere where you know that you have water coming into your unit. Looking for dripping faucets and leaky valves. Toilet leaks can really kind of sneak up on you, and we have free blue dye tablets you can put in your water tank, in the toilet tank, and they will turn the toilet water blue, and you will know that there is a leak. Those are available at Resident Services. How will you know if your use is excessive? Anyone in Tier 4 is going to be getting a letter, whether your meter, if it's a building or your individual house, everyone will get a letter that says you have excessive water use. What's important is not just the letter you receive. We're asking for your cooperation by reducing water usage where you can, and most importantly, by helping identify leaks and repairing those inside your unit and making your unit accessible to maintenance when they contact you to check for leaks as well. Occasionally, significant leaks are hidden and outside the residential unit. Again, you'll be contacted by maintenance, help them. And I do want to share with you very quickly, you may not be overusing water, and yet you may get a Tier 4 bill because of these leaks that you can't see and that are hidden. And I can share with you, I got a letter, and it was like, what? You know, we hadn't even been home for 4 weeks. And so clearly, we weren't using the water, and so we contacted Residential Services. It turned out there was a hidden leak in the potable water line in our front lawn, and it went across 3 lawns on our street. And they have repaired that, and that immediately solved the problem. So if you can cut down on your usage, please do so. If you think it's not you, please make your unit as accessible as you can and help maintenance as much as you can. So checking for leaks. If you get a Tier 4 letter suspecting it's not use related, helping maintenance check. And if we'll move on to the very last slide, which I love to leave you with because there's nothing more beautiful than running water, make water conservation a way of life because in truth, it's up to all of us. That's our Water Committee report. Our next scheduled meeting, we typically met or used to meet quarterly. We're probably going to have to increase that frequency, and we're in constant conversation and communication with members of the Water Committee to make sure we're on top of everything. But please make water conservation a way of life because it really is up to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. Questions? John?
Yes, Donna, our cul-de-sac has 8 Manors and there's only 1 meter. How can you tell, how can you send a letter out if somebody's overusing?
We send a letter, as I indicated, to the people on the meter. It's the same
So
thing.
all eight Manors will
To
get
all
that
8,
letter.
and it may very well be. The 3, I'm in a triplex, all 3 of us got a letter. One of them was vacant, no one had even moved in yet, but they were working on the house, so they knew there weren't leaks. The middle unit was a single individual living there, and then there were us who weren't home. So a letter went to each of us. We talked to each other. We weren't being excessive. We called Resident Services. They came out and checked for it. And so everybody who is on a meter that is excessive will get the letter. we can't and then we have to come out and trace where it's coming from, which is why we've requested, please cooperate with maintenance when they do come out, so we can help find those leaks.
Thank you.
But thank you, good question.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, on to the report of Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. Director Jarrett.
Wait till I find where I'm at. Okay, we met on July the 9th, and our next meeting is August the 24th at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other subcommittee reports anybody wants to give? Okay, on to GRF committee highlights. CAC, Director Karimi.
Like that short, the August 16 meeting was canceled. The next meeting is scheduled for September 9 at 1:30.
Okay, on to the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee. Director Bada.
Thank you, President Parsons. Grant, do you have those photographs? Okay, thanks. We did not have a meeting since our July meeting, but I do have some photographs that I would like to share that would be a small entertainment for people of the lovely GRF horses that we show, but I'll wait for Grant to put them up. Here you go. Here are some horses that are boarded at our equestrian center.
One moment. It sounds like the Zoom is having some troubles seeing the picture.
Okay.
Nice.
Are we good? So here we go. This is the first one. Then there's a. Do we have some more? There you go. These are all the horses that we have at our equestrian center, which people can learn, get a lesson, enjoy riding them. The center has been there for several decades, and right now they have even upgraded the arena. So it looks really pretty. Can you move forward? There you go. Keep going on, don't wait for me. Here are some people taking a tour, somebody's making a sketch. People are having a great time. So I strongly recommend that all the residents should go and pay them a visit. They have a tour going on twice a day. Sometimes over the weekend there's twice a day, but it's once a day during the weekday. Do call, make a reservation, and enjoy.
Okay.
Our next meeting for the Equestrian Center is on August 24th at 1:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. That's a great amenity. Thanks for
Yes.
sharing those photos. Very nice.
We'll get some more.
Okay. Let's go on to GRF Finance Committee. Director Muchnick.
Okay, the committee last met on the 23rd.
Your mic.
You, President Parsons. The committee last met on the 23rd of June. They meet once every 2 months. So I reported to you the activities of the GRF Finance Committee at our July meeting. The next meeting, the GRF Finance Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, August 25th at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
The committee met on June the 9th, and the next meeting will be November the 10th at 1:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting.
Thank you. On to GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
The GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee met on August 11th. It was a very impressive meeting. Debbie Dotson made a presentation, and then the discussion lasted probably an hour. We discussed the future of, and her presentation was on the future of the electric vehicle growth in Laguna Woods Village and EV charging stations. And we looked at costs, benefits, utilization, and then Southern California Edison will be coming in to make a presentation on the costs and what they would, and their involvement. We had some really good discussions. We had people like Steve Leonard and Carl Mendoza, Dick Rader, Bill Walsh, people who are very knowledgeable in that area, and that's really good discussions. And I have a copy of the 15-page presentation that Debbie Dotson made, and I would be glad to make copies if anybody wants a copy. And then we discussed UV lighting and HVAC ionization. We discussed driving range update. We're going to still spend some money to improve the driving range and improve the collection of balls so they don't get lost over the fence. And finally, we discussed curtains for the dining room. And the next meeting will be October 13th. And that completes my report.
Okay, that's the curtains in Clubhouse 4. Excuse me, Clubhouse 3. The pack,
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
the curtain you just mentioned,
Oh,
which clubhouse is that in?
Yes, Clubhouse 3.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Do you have anything, any further to offer, Ralph,
On the golf course?
on anything?
Well, I'll give a report on Clubhouse 1 when we get there.
Okay.
The only, on the golf course, they've kind of backed off on a lot of the expensive costs. And there are going to be some minor grading changes and watering changes, and they plan to plant a Bermuda grass in the area.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you continue on with the Clubhouse 1 renovation ad hoc committee report?
Okay, the last Clubhouse 1 renovation ad hoc committee was held on July 9th. And there are a couple of things discussed. One relating to plumbing and electrical upgrades in the pool area. We noted when we toured this area several months ago that there was a lot of corrosion in that area due to the chemical storage and so forth in there. Staff suggested that some of this might be done in conjunction, particularly as far as the corrosion of the building, could be done with in conjunction with the prior to paint program. Probably one of the biggest changes that came about is we've been talking about a programmatic or utilization study of the facility and hiring an architectural firm outside to do that. I think that's been put aside, at least temporarily, in favor of an in-house study incorporating all of the clubhouses to see how best Clubhouse 1 could fit into the overall program. This is foreseen as probably needing to communicate with leaders of various village activities and clubs and so forth to get their inputs. The next meeting of the CH1 renovation ad hoc committee is yet to be decided.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll move along to the Media and Communications Committee. Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Media and Communications Committee met actually yesterday, August 16th. It was a virtual meeting. Staff submitted the monthly report, which included some media and communication projects, website management, some analytics, some information on new member orientation. So there wasn't any action items submitted in this report. They also submitted a report on Code Red enrollment as well. The big portion of the meeting was devoted to discussion around email scams and how they are starting to emerge again, and some of the plans going forward to just remind residents again that email scams are out there and they're getting pretty creative. And so, and actually I shared my own personal experience with my emails, which were hacked, and the desire to get information out there to residents just to be aware of any suspicious email. In my case, all 3 of my email accounts were hacked. Everybody in all 3 of my email accounts got this spam. And so, again, these scams are out there, whether you know the person or not. Any suspicious email that you get, please discard it. Do not click on it, because once you click on it, you put yourself at risk. You dialogue with the scammers. They seem like they're talking with a real person. I actually saw some of the emails where someone was dialoguing with me about the email that I didn't send. My husband even got the scam email. I got one as well. So we're going to be working with, the Communications Committee is looking at ways to get this information out there again. Although the information is visited frequently, Communications are going to look at ways to revisit this and just let people know to please be aware of email scams. It was a virtual meeting. The next committee meeting is going to be September 20th, and it probably will be a virtual meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
President Parson, the committee met on July 28th. The program for the bus transportation is still the same. There are some changes on the fixed route. The fixed route services, which is called Easy Rider, is transportation for residents through the neighborhood and to the commercial routes. Laguna Woods Village Journey Program provides curb-to-curb transportation for pre-approved residents with medical need, and Boost, which is on-demand rideshare contractual partnership with the Lyft. The average ridership on monthly basis for the Easy Ride has been 4,975. For Journey, was 464, and Boost about 60. There are changes on the trial modification of the Route 1 and 2. The Route 3 have been consolidated to Route 1 and 2 for the trial basis. It started on July 19, and since then there have been no complaints. So next time I'll report on if that's going to be changing again. The commercial Route 1 will cover Gate 5 via Mariposa East Cul-de-sac 205, 207, via Mariposa Cul-de-sac 28, 2015. That's upon request. Via Portera Cul-de-sac 2017-206, again on request. Commercial Route 2 will cover Gate 14 and California Cul-de-sac 401 and 409. For the Gate 11 is upon request. So those are on trial basis, and going to see if we can consolidate one route, 3 of them to 2, and cover all the bases. The other information regarding the mobility and vehicle, the GRF vehicle, about 33 of them going to be sent to auction because they're obsolete, and the expectation is to get about $100,000 worth of revenue out of that when the auction is done. And that's the report. The next meeting is October 6th at 1:30 p.m.
Thank you very much. On to Security Community Access Committee, Director Bada.
Thank you, President Parsons. Our last meeting was on June 28th. Since then, we haven't had another meeting, but I can repeat one of the items which would be important to the residents, and that is due to the new uptick on bicycle theft. The Security Department has set up a bicycle registration program, and residents can call the Security Department, make an appointment, register their bicycles so that it is easier to find or recover their bicycles if at all it is stolen and recovered. Without any registration, they would not know whether it would be yours or not. So strongly recommend that the bicycles are registered. The other thing that I would like to mention is that there's an uptick in the violations noted by the Compliance Division. Please note nuisance is being reported and mostly by your neighbors. So be nice to them and be comply with whatever they are requesting. Okay, our next meeting is on August 30th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lynn?
President Parsons, I have a question for Kush. Maybe we want to put the phone number out there for security, for people to call
Sure.
in.
I don't have it handy unless staff can help me with it.
Do you have that available, Siobhan?
Give me a minute and I will.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, I could give it to you in a second. It should be. The securities phone number is 949-580-1400 or 1400. Again, 949-580-1400. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, on to Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Disaster Task Force did meet for the month of July. There was a report of the radio drill, which was uneventful. It went off successfully. There were no problems with responders. There was also, the committee got copies of a pet disaster preparedness plan. I'm not quite sure if it's on the website, but what this plan does, it gives a lot of information for pet owners in the event of a disaster and how you can evacuate your pet, such as maybe having a cage available and having something on your window to let rescue people know that you've got a pet involved. So this is a very, very detailed plan for pet owners. I'm not quite sure it's on the website, but if people are interested, they can contact the Disaster Preparedness Department or Security, and you can get a copy of this. It's got some really, really good information in it, and it's available for free. There also was some discussion involving a lot of helicopter activities circling around the areas. The discussion was nobody really knew what was going on. Some of the helicopters looked like they might just be police helicopters, some that weren't identifiable. And we had no way of knowing if there was a danger to the residents or anything because we didn't get a code red alert. So Chief Rojas is going to look into situations like this and report back to the committee any information that we might need so that when helicopters are circling around, especially if there's a fire or something, maybe if it's in Gate 9, then you know that you don't evacuate toward Gate 9. So we will get more information about that at the next meeting. So the next meeting will be September 28th. Although this past meeting was an in-person meeting, we don't know whether it's going to be virtual or not, but more information to come on that.
Okay, is any discussion being talked about on Operation Shakeout? It's normally in October?
Nothing came up at the meeting this meeting on that. But I'll have some information at the next meeting. I can report on it.
Okay, yeah, if we could get some information on that, to start preparing people for that, it'd be great. Okay, any other comments? Okay, let's go to the report of Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Frankel.
The last meeting was on the 21st of July. We meet on the Wednesday following this meeting, so we'll be meeting again tomorrow. There were 3 violations, 1 speeding, and 2 stop signs. All 3 violations were found guilty.
Okay, just as a side note to that, I'm still noticing, especially over near Gate 10 and side streets, people speeding and not stopping at stop signs. They just don't do it. Some people don't even pay attention to stop signs. And even coming into gates 10 and 11, they don't stop. And sooner or later, I think somebody's going to get hit. So I bring that up as a caution. And I see Siobhan shaking her head on that. But it's really significant, folks. If people pay attention to the stop signs, yield when you need to, watch out for people stopping or stepping off of sidewalks and so forth. So be very careful with that, especially people watching their speed when they're going downhill. Significant problems with that. And I do appreciate Chief Rojas and company having the machines out that tells you how fast you're going. I use those a lot. And sometimes I'll be thinking about something and my foot gets a little heavy. So anyway, I'm sure I'm not the only one. But anyway, please take note and take caution. Okay, let's go to our final one, GRF Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee. Director Muchnick.
Simple. Committee. Very simple. The committee last met on the 28th of June. An update was shared with you at our July board meeting. At this point in time, the next meeting, the Strategic Planning Committee, is yet to be scheduled.
Okay, thank you very much. On to item 16, future agenda items. Do we need to make any corrections or additions? Okay, let's go on to item 17, director's comments. We'll start to my right. Donna, you're first.
Thank you, and no comment other than those during the meeting. Thank you very much. Good meeting.
Okay, Craig.
I thought this meeting was particularly good because of the pictures, not only of the video of our new representatives, directors, supervisors, but also the other pictures that have been provided. I thought that was a great addition.
Okay, and thanks to both of you for being on subcommittees with Robert, checking on our investments and so forth. Okay, Ralph.
I would just like to add one thing. I think Director McCary mentioned email hacking. I got one of those letters from the hacker, and I said, "Oh, sure, I'll be happy to help you as whatever you need." Oh, by the way, and then I asked her a question that only she or I knew the answer to. I never heard another word from the hacker.
Good point. Okay, Lynn.
I think it was a good meeting, but I want to thank all the board for all the work they do. It's just amazing how things come together at this board meeting with all the committee work everyone does. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, appreciate your comment. Annie?
A couple of things that you alluded to, President Parsons, about the speeding. And kudos to Chief Rojas, and because I see those guys parked on streets, but they can't be everywhere. And I know they do a great job, and I want to just appreciate them. But just as a reminder, it really, really is important to observe the speed limit, especially now with paving of the cul-de-sacs and the streets. People are parking on the streets, and especially going downhill. Sometimes I just watch people speeding at some scary speeds coming down those hills, and I see people pulling out into the street, and they may not be aware that somebody's flying down the street. So again, please be cautious with your speed limit, and also, again, be aware of any email scams that may be coming your way. Thank you.
Director Muchnick.
No comment.
Okay, John Frankel.
Just one comment with regard to the helicopters. I live above Barber's Lake, and when we had that fire last month off the 73, I watched the helicopters for an hour. So if you see a lot of helicopters over in that area, look out. There's a fire.
Okay, we'll jump to Kush. Go ahead. He wants the last word, so we'll give him the last word.
Razor. Okay, I don't have any comment, but I still want to mention that to people to take care of themselves, stay covered with a head cover, put some sunscreen. The weather has not changed. It's going to be cooler for the next 2-3 days, but it's hot. Stay safe. That's all.
Okay, good comments. Okay, Reza.
President Parson, how much time we have? No, it was a great meeting. I want to thank staff and the whole board for a very informative meeting. It's hot out there. Just please stay hydrated. If you're jogging and you get some cramp in your calves, drink water. That's the reason that you're getting cramps. Because I went to the doctor, I said, I'm getting cramps. He says, drink water. That's what he told me. So I'm transferring that. If you're jogging outside and you have cramps, drink a lot of water. Stay hydrated and have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff? Siobhan?
No, thank you.
Okay, Grant?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, just parting comment. This last week, I was almost involved in 2 different traffic accidents, and both of them dealt with people backing out without looking behind them. I looked behind myself, had flashers on. Before I got in the car, I walked around it, and still some people pulled out, and these are different locations. And they almost hit me as well as some other vehicles. So please, please take things to heart here, cautions, and look before you move your vehicle. That can save us a lot of headache. Thanks to everybody that was here. Thank you for the presentations. It means a lot, and especially when we can get a picture in front of people. Sometimes a picture says more than we can say. So thanks again, and at this time, if there's no objections, we'll go to recess.